What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Essential Scares podcast, the only show that dares to ask the question, is it essential? I am your host, Corbin, and with me today, as always, is Alan.
Good morning.
Bobby.
Lost Ark's one hell of a drug.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We've got a great show coming for you today. The second Wes Craven movie of the year. We're going to be discussing the original, The Hills Have Eyes. But before we get into it, Bobby has a spoiler warning.
I do. This will serve as your first one and only spoiler warning for the seminal film, The Hills Have Eyes. If you do not want this movie spoiled for you, skip to the time code provided in the description for our essential spoiler-free discussion. You know, it speaks to Wes Craven that he can make a movie that is this good and is still a ripoff of the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. Corbin.
You know, he's honest about it. He admitted that this was basically a ripoff. You know, it came out a short 3 years after Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you've seen Texas Chainsaw, you basically already know what this movie is about.
You got the cliff notes.
It's the same basic story. I think the thing that stood out to me the most, and I only thought about it because of you, Bobby. When we had our Texas Chainsaw Massacre discussion a few weeks ago, you made a few comments, and you talked to us more about this off air, about how Texas Chainsaw was one of, if not the first, modern horror movies.
Yes.
And knowing that this movie is directly inspired by that movie, this movie stood out to me because it clearly is not a modern-style horror movie. And that was very interesting to me, like, while watching it. I don't think I would have caught that. If we hadn't had that talk a few weeks ago, I probably wouldn't have thought anything of it while watching it this time.
It's very, how would you put it? It's very, like, that older, like, noir-style horror, but then they just threw a bunch of, like, intense, like tensioned bits that were not, like, noir, and then they up the ante with, like, we're gonna eat your baby.
Right. Like, it's almost like cross-genre in that way, but...
Yeah, oh, for sure, yeah. But, I just want to get this out of the way, I thought this movie was fucking awesome. I really liked it. I thought it was very fun. It made me sweat, and I know I feel like I might be an island on that one, but I feel like the tension was appropriate in this movie. And it also...
What parts made you feel tense?
Like the entire scene where they're like looting, and then like the shoot, like that entire bit is like, you don't know who's gonna make it out, you don't know who's gonna live or die. Like, a bunch of people live that you weren't expecting to live, a bunch of people die that you weren't expecting to die, right? Like, there's a lot. I mean, we have to get to your synopsis before we touch anything. But
that is true.
There's not a whole lot to say. I mean, it really basically is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We're, I assume, still in Texas?
No, they're in, like, Vegas.
Yeah, they're on their way.
Vegas?
They're driving to California, and they took a detour. So they're in, like, Nevada or somewhere. Yeah.
Could be going through Texas. In my head, I straight up did think this was just Texas or
Aren't they
somewhere
from Cleveland?
else in that area.
Why would they be in Texas? Weren't they in Cleveland?
This is the
Yeah,
70s.
they're from
They don't
Cleveland.
have
Isn't the dad like a racist cop from Cleveland?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Okay.
The dad is a racist cop, a retired racist cop from Cleveland, and they're driving to California, and they stop on the way for, like, diamond mine or whatever.
No, it's a silver mine. It's their silver anniversary.
Our
silver
grammar was
anniversary
wrong
for
there.
silver mine. Oh, he's
racist,
retired
cop.
Yeah, true.
Come on, we have to...
He's not retired as
Syntax.
being racist. He's clearly still racist.
Exactly. But they're trying.
We could have
to
just
go to
said
their
a cop,
silver mine.
guys. Hey-oh! Ba-boom!
They're on their
my
way to California. They'd make a pit stop to try to find this silver mine in their family's lineage that was left to them. And they find out that they shouldn't have gone off the beaten path because the
hills indeed have eyes.
They do. And they also see, the one thing I will say is this movie, our characters, our villains are not 2 generations too far gone, like we've seen in previous films in this month.
They're only 2 generations gone.
Exactly. They were like negative 2 generations too far gone. They'll get there. Yeah. Make no mistake. Yeah. It'll get to that point. But,
in fact, yet. Like this is the generational level at which we said that the other movie should have been about.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're still believably human, even though they're totally fucked up.
Yeah,
like
well,
it's
also
still believably
they
scary
talk about how like they're the product of like essentially Agent Orange,
yeah.
like
and they live like in that nuclear test zone, like So at least there's a reason.
Yeah.
They're not inbred. They're just mutants.
Which is like it's one of those things. It's like if you think about it for like a longer period of time, you're like, I don't know. But like when you're watching the movie, it's like yeah, fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
There's no like blatant dissonance where you're like, this is just completely ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's not like so
obscene.
Far
gone.
Yeah.
This isn't like a why did this person sneeze? This entire movie's ruined for me, Alan moment. This is just if you think about it for a little bit of time,
Yeah.
But talking about that, Alan actually told us before the show that he had a moment like that. What was it?
And I was incredibly confused because you
So Alan,
I was like this. Go for it.
Okay, so Alan told us that it happened 14 minutes in. He tells us this as he's watching the movie. We don't watch the movie together, so we didn't know what moment he was talking about.
Oh.
What was the moment?
All right, so Bobby. Not you, Bobby. Bobby in the movie.
Yeah.
What,
oh, God.
What shirt is he wearing?
I don't know. I think it's a t-shirt.
Ohio State University.
Okay.
A well-known university, don't you know?
Sure.
What color was that shirt in the font? Green.
You're doing this. This is what lost you.
No, I'm not saying it took me off track of the entire movie. I'm just saying it definitely...
When I made the sneezing comment, this is exactly what the fuck I was talking about.
Okay?
Fuck you, dude.
No,
that shit
Ohio State is a well-known university.
We were combing the scene over and over and over again. Like, what could it possibly be?
Literally rewatched that like 5 minutes of the movie multiple times to try and figure it out in advance.
Ohio State University is an incredibly well-known university, and their colors are red and white. And this
You're
dude's
an
wearing
insane
a green shirt.
person. You're an insane person.
I'm not saying it took me out of the whole movie, but out of that scene, I was like, "That's a little weird. That should be a red shirt." I even went so far as to be like, "Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe their colors were green."
I was gonna say, are we sure that
I checked? Okay, I did. I looked up the 1977 Ohio State football team, and they wore red. Okay. I went that far because I'm a neurotic idiot, okay?
Yes, you are. That's what this is.
Out of all the things that it could have been,
I know.
I never thought that
in
would be
a million years I would have thought.
I had to watch that mom force her family to pray like 3 times to try and figure out what it was. And it turned out it was a green t-shirt. Like...
I didn't even notice. You asked like you expected us to know what kind of goddamn shirt he was wearing.
I had no idea what he was talking about.
In a horror movie, dude. What are you doing?
He could have worn a different color shirt in like every other shot, and I barely would have noticed. That's the reality.
That's what I thought it was going to be. I thought he was like, his shirt was like a different shirt, and I would have just been like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. I could have even like put that away. He put on a different shirt.
Yeah, sure. I can get past a different shirt, but the wrong color for the university? Unacceptable.
He just bought it from Walmart. They didn't have the license.
1977 Walmart?
Yeah, that'd be great if Walmart existed in 1977. Double dissonance now. This movie's shit.
Hold on, did Walmart exist in 1977?
I'm pretty sure it didn't. I'm pretty sure Walmart is a fairly new invention.
62.
Yeah, I was going to say...
Oh, in Arkansas. I mean, they could have. They might have passed by a. All right, so they passed by a Walmart in Arkansas, and that's
grabbed a knockoff Ohio State shirt.
There you go. Because he went to Ohio State,
so he wanted to have it. He was pissed that it was green, but here we are.
Okay, so dissonance broken.
Yep, it's all good.
It's
fixed.
Okay, I will say by having the name Bobby, even though he was not
more for you for that.
I think legitimately it did, because like there were so many scenes where like there were just people screaming, "Bobby, wait, Bobby, don't!" Like, and I was just like, "Fuck!" Like,
I've never seen a horror movie with someone with my name in it. The only movie I can even think of is Fifth Element, which
yeah.
So,
but like and like Bobby is a Bob Robert. It's all a relatively like common name, but like it's never used.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's true actually.
like, so like this is weird for me. Like, and like, you know, we're not the same person by any means, but like we touch similar like themes, right?
Sure.
I'm not the son of a racist cop. I'm the son of a progressive social worker. So like, you know,
it seems like you diverted pretty quickly.
A lot less misogyny on your part than movie Bobby's part.
Yeah. But there are some weird little like things.
Do you think that after when Beauty gets killed, Bobby runs up that cliff and finds her, and then is like shell shocked for almost the whole rest of the movie. Do you think that sharing a name with that character and also being a double dog owner even, do you think that helped you along with that character specifically in those moments?
Yes, absolutely. And I even get why a lot of people like complain in this movie that he doesn't tell them that the dog is dead.
I did have that complaint.
I also did.
But
that he saw one of the Hills Have Eyes people in that moment too.
He doesn't. He just hears them and runs off.
I think as we see them like go by, like I thought the implication is that like he sees something go by.
That's what I was thinking too.
But I don't think he knows. I think the implication is he thinks it might be an animal or something like that. But like I also get like the idea of like, I don't want to tell them we're already having a bad day, telling them the dog got eaten by an animal. Like is like it's almost like I have to grit and bear it.
But he knows that it wasn't eaten by an animal. When he talks to his brother or brother-in-law, when he comes back, he says that Beauty was slit up and down, like she was gutted. Like there's no way that an animal is going to.
But by this point, they are starting to realize that there's some like at the beginning, it's pretty easy to be like, an animal must have gotten like that was kind of like where my thing was like, he's just freaked out because his dog got killed and like by an animal, and that's like, that sucks.
I guess the difference is I from that point on I was like, oh, Bobby knows that there are people here, so like when he then like, that's why that doesn't work for me, because I'm working on the frame that he knows these people are here. So like I'll fully
contend that it's probably not the most effective, but like I bought into that reasoning of like he does like, because like, hey, there are people here is a very like, that's something you tell somebody. And like I don't think, and they don't. Bobby doesn't ever necessarily act super irrational, other than like that bit. Mm-hmm. So there, you have to. I guess I go to, what is the rational explanation for why this character would do this, and it's just like, well, his mom is super in denial about everything, even until she dies, right? Like everybody, the one sister is like very clearly just trying to spend some time with her husband, doesn't want her day ruined, even though they're already ruined. Like, like all of this type of stuff, right? Like the other sister is just like already freaked out. What am I going to do by adding a dead dog to the mix, right? Like, I'll just keep it to myself. If it becomes relevant, when it becomes relevant, he starts mentioning it to people that like, you know, he also mentions it to the men because there's that latent misogyny. And like this movie, where it does really well, again, I'm just to shift the focus back, is like this movie does a really good thing of being like really, that like Texas Chainsaw doesn't do, is it kind of spits in the face of the American family in a way that I think we needed it at the time, and even today, to have our face spat in, right? This like the men control, the men run the thing, and they do the stuff, and we just listen to like all like, and you know, the dad can be racist because he's done all this work, and women, my wife, I hate my, like all that stuff is like all that is, I think, it's framed as equally as shocking as some of the more like cannibalistic bits, or even the cannibalistic implications.
Do you think that's also accented by, I forget the girl's name, but doesn't she come up with the plan at the very end to kind of catch the guy by his feet?
Yeah.
Kind of like accenting like hey, Fivehead.
Yeah.
You've got people who understand what are happening here and like think more logically than you.
Yeah.
So.
No, yeah, I agree. I think so. I think so as well. Yeah. And I like that. Like the fact that like, and even like the ways that like the people who go out, right? Like the wife goes out like fairly tamely, but Big Bob like gets like crucified and lit on fire. Like,
oh, you meant the people of the cannibal people. Yeah.
No, I meant like the family.
Yeah,
the non-cannibal people.
Yeah, Big Bob definitely had quite a kill scene.
quite the exit.
I have a question on Bob's scene.
I will say the other two like main kills though. Alan, I'll come right back to you. Were a little bit more than a little bit disappointing for me because I think I always have issue with a movie that is built on savagery in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then you have two of the most prominent kills in the movie are just gunshots. Like it's just kind of lame. And I think that I like that they're killed during the raid. I think that's probably the best sequence of the movie.
Yes, I agree.
But I think that just a normal knife is just more interesting. It's a little bit more visceral than shooting someone in a trailer. Like,
I have to disagree with that.
Really?
Because yes, I'm typically very much like guns are stupid in horror movies. I agree, but like there was something about that, and just how like there was a bluntness to it that really like struck me. Just the oh shit bang, oh shit bang, like that the dudes, they weren't necessarily being hyper cannibalistic. They were just like, we get our stuff. We do what we do, we get out of here, and everything, like, and then they move on with their day, right? Like, it wasn't like they came there to kill, but they had no problem doing it in a pinch. And, like, there is that, like, you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, lady, type thing. And, like, that's, like, ooh, like, that gave me the heebie-jeebies. Like, that's like, fair. Nothing, it's like, this is nothing personal, boom. Like, sure. Like, that's the coldness of it.
Alan?
So, with the Bob scene, when he's caught by the dad cannibal, I forget what his name is.
Is that Pluto?
I think you're right.
No, Pluto is the dad is like Jupiter or something.
Okay,
it's a bigger planet.
So when Jupiter catches up to Bob, and he starts to crucify him, does he put a cactus down his throat?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought that's what I was seeing. I just wanted to verify. So I had a funny moment with that. So I'm watching that scene, and I'm just intent, okay, he's getting crucified, whatever. Seen there, been there, done that. And then the cactus comes in, and at that moment, Maggie walked into the office, and my face was just like, because give Wes his credit. I have never seen that in a horror movie. Mm-hmm. And that fits to me with like how fucked up this guy is. You're in the desert, so you use what you got. Like that, the whole sequence with Bob and then him being burned, just to really, put the nail on the head, was excellent. Just wonderful bit there with him. And that's the only kill that I thought was worth a damn in this movie. Everything else is boring to me.
I don't know, man. They're like this movie takes a sudden shift from like this movie is weirdly like Wes Craven doing what Wes Craven was known for combined with Texas Chain Saw. So it was like Last House on the Left, because like, and the second half becomes this like weird revenge movie where like the Beast kills the person who killed Duty, right? And like everybody is killing the person that did fucking what's the main guy's name?
Jupiter?
No, the main like
there was Bobby and there was
Mustache. Mustachio.
I don't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, but like they killed
Fred. So I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah, he kills the one who killed his wife. Yep. Bobby and his sister kill the one who killed his parents. Like there is this like their parents. Like there is this weird revenge. Doug. There's this weird revenge tale that comes out of it in the end, and like I think that like some of those moments, like the one where Beast gets what's his face, like that shit is like, I found that to be weirdly cathartic, I found when like Doug is finally just like, fuck you, like there is like a like, although like you were expecting, I think that same scene happens in the remake kind of to a certain extent, or like something like that happens in the remake where like, and there's a lot more splatter, you're kind of expecting that, and that doesn't necessarily happen, so it's kind of left. But like there is like there's an intensity in these little bits that I like.
I don't disagree with the cathartic nature of these kills. I just don't think they were interesting, is kind of my contention. Like, it really, like, with Bob kind of sets the level, like, very, very high of, like, this is wild and crazy. And everything else just kind of feels boring in comparison in a way that felt a little unsatisfying. And I think a lot of that is those 2 gunshot kills, because I'm to the point where gunshots are just... You have to do something incredibly unique to make a gunshot kill interesting and compelling, I think.
Well, Jupiter's the only one. Jupiter's the only one who isn't practical with like any kills, right? Jupiter does with his dad. He like hangs him with the piece with the tire iron out of the outhouse. He kills Big Bob in the same way, but like everybody else, everything is like incredibly, they're just doing what has to get done, or they're like even which I think, even when Jupiter dies, right, even they try to do the trap to like get him and like to blow him up, but like he still goes out with the hatchet to the back, right? Like like there's just
Isn't
like
he shot as well,
maybe he gets shot and then they hatchet him in the back.
I think that makes sense though, because you know he's the only one that, you know, we're given some level of insanity, right, for him as a character. And, you know, he actually has backstory about him being crazy and something was wrong with him. But his family, they're just living their life, you know. I mean, they don't, you know, I don't think that they have that same level of, like, this is a crazy thing that I choose to do. They just do it because that's what life is. So I think that, there probably is an argument to be made for the normalness of the kills from the rest of the family. And when thinking about it, it does make sense. Like, I think that it fits in theme, but while watching, it's a little bit like, I think that's the issue, is that it's one of those things that I think held, at least for me, less impact while watching, even if it did make sense to do it that way.
Yeah. I guess maybe more than anything else, I think I just kind of bought in to like this. That's fair. Like in like the biggest, because like there was just a lot of this movie that like I felt was well done. Yeah, like, for sure. Like that it fit, like everything kind of like that's what Wes Craven does. He makes a story that like things fit, right? And like, or that's what he did, I should say. R.I.P. to the realest one. That's right. But like there is a certain level of like, I don't know, like it just like it also fits into this idea of like the family dynamic, because like this is what that like at the end of the day, whether this movie is a ripoff of Texas Chain Saw Massacre or not, like it's really a play on like the nuclear family. So we show like the nuclear family, and then we show the nuclear family, right? And like what does that mean, and like how similar they are, and like all like they're like, if you really look at them closely and you squint, they're almost inseparable from one another, but if you open your eyes, it's like their physical differences is what makes them like blah blah blah. And like I mean, Jupiter's crazy. Why there's just
as many mutants as there are you know, people, is literally 1-to-1 with just one spare baby.
Well, it's like the same thing. It's like Jupiter and Big Bob are both bad guys in their own way, and then everybody else is just kind of following their lead. Right. And then you got Doug, and then you've got the daughter, and like they kind of hit this pathos of like they're trying to like be good together, and you know they meet in the middle, and they end up still having to kill. Like there's I think it's a fun movie personally.
So we often forget to talk about music when we're going through these movies, but I think it has to come up here, because when it shows up, it feels out of place, but I know it's really not. in a strange way. Like, this weird, like, disco-ass music starts coming up during the revenge plot portion. And, like, I hate it, but I love it. Like, it's such... I had such a weird bunch of emotions during that bit.
I agree. I think it's kind of funny because we mentioned earlier that this movie sort of crosses genres, and the music mostly kicks in when the movie has flipped to the other side.
Yeah, almost entirely. Like, I don't remember much of any music leading up to that.
And I liked it, but it also was one of those things that while watching, for me, put this movie squarely in an era long past. The way that those scenes were scored, the type of music that was going on, I had a good time with it. I thought it
disco.
Yeah, it fit. But while watching, even I turned to Jill and was like, okay, this is kind of ridiculous. We watched it together, and then after the movie, one of my comments was that, like, you know, this movie feels like it could have been made in like the 60s. It feels like an early mid 60s movie in that weird way. And those scenes are a big part of that. And even though the music wouldn't be quite like that, but just the way it's scored is like, this just
how
feels
different
so
is
old.
that scene from like a typical scene from the Batman TV show?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Really, it's not that far apart from, you know,
Hills
Adam West
66.
Batman.
Yeah.
Running around with the giant bomb.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just go to blow up a mutant. I'll be right back.
Like, you know, like we said, this movie is at a weird crossroads, and it you feel like it's difficult to lean in because the source material hasn't really been as cemented yet, right? Like, this movie is very clearly playing with. This is one of the movies that helps cement it, because clearly some of the stuff in this movie just doesn't work, right? Like you said, some of the times the score does not work. Sometimes, like again, even though I can get why Bobby did what he did, there is that moment there's those moments of like the old style movies of just like holding on to a wall and just being like, oh, like while the camera zooms in on your face and like,
yeah, absolutely.
Another character we haven't talked. Sorry, but were you going to say something there?
No, go for it.
Character we haven't talked about, Beast. We mentioned him briefly, but this dude comes in
the Beast.
Clutch.
Love the dog. Love that dog.
What a dog character. All right, he is so good.
A very good.
No, he's not. He's not. That's the thing. Yeah. Like they it's like there's one. It's actually one of the coolest bits of this movie, and like kind of like helps you unite both families in the savagery. Is they're laughing about how in Florida the Beast just killed another dog. Yeah. And they're all like, yeah, we had to pay that stupid lady's vet bills for a dead dog. It's like, that's not funny. So he's just like that's like how we like tolerate savagery when we tolerate the person. But like the Beast is like, there is a cool, like, again, that's one of my favorite scenes is like where where Beast gets his revenge for Beauty is like, you know, you don't see anything. But they have ramped it up. It's like Beast doesn't bark until he's set to kill, and so there's just this silent dog just like in the bushes, lashing out, like getting him, and then going back. Like, it's super cool.
He ripped his whole Achilles, man. He's done. Yeah. You can't walk after that. It's
he's also dead. So
sure, I know. He made sure to really do the job well, but yeah, Beast is great.
Yeah, that scene was disorienting, I'll say, while watching.
I think that's the point, right?
It is. It is. Yeah.
It's meant to make you feel like this is what happens when you're getting like attacked by an animal. Like you're disoriented because that's like what they do. They're all over you.
Yeah.
But
yes.
Are we ready to score this boy? We got anything else we want to mention?
I think we have one thing we need to talk about.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
The end of the movie.
You mean like literally the very last shot?
Literally just how it just ends abruptly.
Oh, sure. So
I hated it.
That's fair, I guess. Okay, here's the downside of ending it that way, is that you're left thinking, well, what now? The upside of ending the movie that way is that you're left thinking, well, what now? And
like,
I was
what's going? Yeah.
Yeah, I was totally fine with it. We did have sort of like a well, what the hell moment when the movie finished because I had never seen this one. I think this was a first watch for all of us, maybe.
Yep.
I'd only seen the remake.
Oh, love that.
Yeah. And when it just ended like that, Jill and I turned to each other and was like, "Oh, it's just over. Like that's the end." And
it just kind of like put me on the defensive in a weird way, where I was like, why did this just stop?
I mean, what was going to happen next? I guess the issue is like if the movie kept going, what would be there that would have been worth it?
I'm not necessarily saying that there was anything post. I guess the one thing I'd say positively for the way this ends is it's over. Things are done. It doesn't overly matter what happens next. And I guess that's okay. That's an okay enough ending. But it inherently doesn't give you any form of closure, which makes you feel uncomfortable, which is probably the point. Like, I get that, but it's still just...
I disagree with that. I mean, it gives you all of the revenge closure. I mean, they fulfilled their task. Like, yeah, you don't know how they're going to get out of the middle of the desert, but it's a horror movie, and it almost doesn't matter. Most horror movies end with the main character killing 1+ people, and you're left with the question of how do they now get away with this? You know, like there's always the question of what happens after this, and I don't think it really matters. You just assume that they get away or don't. But the point of this is that they did defeat the mutants, so you have that level of fulfillment, and as soon as that is done, like it's just over.
Well, and I think the point is like to ask questions. You're supposed to be like horror movies are supposed to leave you with lingering questions.
Yeah.
Because like, and this movie does that. It's like again, you're left going like, well, what now?
Yeah.
Like they there's no way they're getting out. They have to be on foot. They have no idea where they're at. You know, like
they said that gas station was like 15 miles away or whatever. Like
yeah. And
that's a
and
hike.
like there was no exit there.
And
they
adding
know...
onto that, his gas station has a sign that says "No gas, 220 miles."
Right.
So they're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So like, there's just like, what now is like that is a scary question. Like, yeah, they lived, they beat the bad guys, quote unquote, but like, what now?
Maybe they were the bad guys all along, Bobby.
Well, maybe they become They really become the bad guys, you know?
They could. They might have to.
That's right.
Like, people come through this road. There's, like...
Clearly.
Right?
Yeah. But that's all. I just wanted to bring up that ending, because it definitely felt weird for me.
I think the only weird part about the ending was how the screen turned flat red, which is a very, very 70s.
I also think it was meant to imply the blood.
I agree, but it's just one of those like stylistic choices that ages it a little bit in a weird way.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very culty in a weird way. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like the freeze frame or ending it on him like panting, standing over a guy he just stabbed 10 times. Like that's actually something I've seen in modern movies quite often. Like that's totally fine to just end a movie like that. But the fade to red and then credits, it's like, oh, okay.
They will have eyes, yeah. But I don't know. I liked it. Yeah, I thought it was well done.
How much would you say you liked it, Bobby? We here on Essential Scares like to rate these films between 0 and 5 with half points allowed. So with that in mind, what do you rate this movie?
It's a toughie.
This movie has a lot of the stuff I like in horror movies. Like it's got a lot of like blanket tension, a lot of like it's really well acted. We didn't like go super into detail on it, but I think it's a really well acted movie for what it's worth. Like for its time and for its budget, I would say that like, the fact that like very few people of these are known names after this it's well done. I'm waffling between a half point, and I'll just go with the positive here. I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5. I liked it a lot. It's not a perfect movie. There's enough, in all honesty, probably a 4.25 if it existed. But I liked it enough to bump it up. between the two. It's very fun. It's very tense. It's very Wes Craven, right?
Yeah.
But but it doesn't have like all of the polish that he has in a lot of his like later movies that kind of give it a little bit of the extra zhuzh. So there's a lot of dirt and grime, which I like because I like a lot of that. Like I like when somebody is still finding their craft. I find that to be a very interesting time in an artist's career. And so I like this movie for those. I like it for its little like imperfections, its flaws, its weird music choices, and like trying to figure out how to be on the cutting edge while still like being stuck to a different space. So yeah, and it's also Wes Craven, so like anything below a 4 feels dirty to give personally. So 4.5 out of 5.
That's fair.
That's right. I'm priming the pump for you guys to look like assholes.
I love that he did that.
Bobby poisoning the well over here.
All right, so Wes Craven is probably my favorite horror director pre the current modern era, right? When I compare Wes Craven, Sam Raimi, John Carpenter, all the the greats of that 80s, 90s. Wes Craven he's my favorite. He's always been. And despite that, I do disagree with Bobby's point that giving any Wes Craven movie a less than a 4 is sacrilege, because there are a few Wes Craven movies that aren't quite a 4. And I do think that this is one of them. I think that this movie isn't quite a 4. I would give it a 3.5. I think that it is quite good. I liked it for a lot of the things that Bobby mentioned, but I think that those things also make the movie kind of an awkward watch. It feels a little bit less consistent in tone, and I think that the pacing is meant to feel frenetic at the time, but now it just feels a little bit off. I don't know what it is exactly, but there's something about the pacing and the way that this movie lays its tension that didn't actually quite work for me. I know that this movie does work for other people. Bobby felt tension. I watched this movie with my wife. She felt tense. For me, I didn't really get it. It's hard for me to put my finger on it, but something about this movie just didn't really click for me. But I do think that it's very well done. And so for that, I would give it 3.5. Yeah.
I did not like this movie. Pretty much, I wouldn't say at all, but it didn't click with me in almost any capacity. And
Sure.
I realized that fairly early on. That being said, I am taking the objective route where I understand that even though I did not like this movie, I can't give it anything less than a 3 out of 5. I think that it is definitely an above average film. I think that there are aspects of this movie that are pretty good, all things considered. But just as a movie to watch, I wouldn't say it's like the antithesis of what I want in a film by any means, but it goes closer to that than I was expecting leading into this. Especially because my first note, oh shit, Daddy Wes made this. That's the first note I've got written down, because I had no idea. And I was very excited. Very excited. But it just didn't work for me, but I can't shit on it for all those reasons. I have to kind of look at it and go, no, this movie is definitely better than what I would personally want to give it. So that's why I'm at a 3.
Okay. Wow.
Big yikers, gentlemen. Big yikers.
I know. That's quite a spread. Quite a spread.
It's a more interesting spread. I don't know that we usually have, what is that, a 1.5 point differential there?
Not often.
Big one for us.
Not often. Well, moving on. I mean, do we think it's essential? Spoiler free, regardless of scores, do we think it's essential? Gentlemen, Alan gave this a 3 out of 5. I gave it a 3.5. And Bobby gave it a 4.5. So if you're skipping ahead, those were our scores. And hey, no spoilers. Alan,
imagine giving a Wes Carpenter movie. I'm putting two people together here, right?
Bobby,
a John Carpenter or a Wes Craven movie.
References.
These two gentlemen,
yeah,
right? Imagine giving either one of them less than a 4 out of 5. It's sacrilege. Could not be made.
Oh my god. All right, well, do you?
Yeah,
yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Do I think this movie is essential? Probably not. No.
let me wax poetically on how fucking stupid my co-hosts are. That's probably not essential.
I love that.
No, I was thinking about it, right? And like, I just on my own criteria of essentiality, it just probably isn't, right? Like, I struggle with this because this movie does have a remake, which means it does have a certain level of like staying
there's like
power.
4 other movies in this franchise.
Yeah,
like,
I hear you on that, but like at the same time, I think about like what I've always considered to be like the criteria of these movies is like it's lasting power, kind of, sort of, maybe, right? But also like Texas Chainsaw kind of like fits this mold in like a way that it just doesn't, right? Like, it is a Wes Craven movie, yes, and like every Wes Craven movie, I would possibly argue is an essential, right, movie. But at the same time, like what it does, Wes Craven does is like The Last House on the Left does to an even more intense, and that's his first movie, right? Yep. So like between those two, like I'm comparing apples to apples with this, and the other apple seems to be the shinier, redder apple, right? And like,
for sure.
So like that's why I'm thinking probably not. While it's awesome, right? I give this movie a 4.5 out of 5, and like I said, Wes Craven cannot do wrong in my book. Like even if his movie, like this is probably not his worst movie, but it's probably not his best movie either, right? Like it's just, and it's not a movie that's lost to history, but like on the level of essentiality, I think it's no. That's like fair. I like just based off of the criteria that I've set, I put myself into, I don't think I can give it to it if I'm being consistent with myself.
Yeah. I mean, you did say no to Wrong Turn, and that has 5 sequels. So
yeah. I'll say no to Wrong Turn. Almost every Wrong Turn movie. There might be one Wrong Turn movie I say yes to.
There's definitely, I think, an objective yes in the Wrong Turn franchise. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of that. I think it is tough because, we talked about it earlier in the review portion that this movie is sort of a blending of a lot of things, right? It's Wes Craven finding himself. It's this subgenre discovering itself, kind of really kickstarted with Texas Chainsaw, and that was only 3 years prior to this. It is sort of sits at the transitionary point between old and modern horror, and it's very interesting for a lot of those reasons. And on top of that, I mean, it is culturally relevant. People make Hills Have Eyes references pretty often. It's a movie that even if a lot of people now maybe haven't seen it, everybody knows the name of it. I think that there's not very many people, the average Joe on the street, that if you said, oh, The Hills Have Eyes, they would have never heard that combination of words, before.
It's a great title. Like that's like part of.
Oh, it's incredible.
It's so evocative.
Yeah, and I think all of those things combined for me is going to make it a yes. Even though I do agree with you that there are better movies and more essential movies for most of those things. So far as the genre kickstarting, Texas Chainsaw is better. So far as watching Wes Craven's early work, Last House on the Left is a better movie, and it's where he started. But I think despite that, it's a yes anyway for the combination of things. It's just this very intriguing middle point that you don't see too often. You don't see often movies in the process of making a transition.
It's so cool. Yeah. That's why I gave this movie a 4.5 out of 5. Is for that reason. Is it's just like. It's fun. Like I said, it's fun to see little.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Makes it very intriguing. So I think for that reason, from like a film history level, I would say yes. Alan.
I'm a no. Just straight up, I'm a no. I think that this movie, while has its bits that are interesting and fun, it's just so overshadowed. Like. Yeah. I mean, you walk up to any person on the street and say, hey, have you heard of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Or, hey, have you heard of The Hills Have Eyes? You're going to have enough. There's going to be people who've seen both. There's going to be people who know both. But more people are going to know the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I think that, like, general consciousness level with this kind of subgenre, to me, kind of makes me think, well, I don't know that it necessarily brings anything to the table that isn't brought already. I do have a weird relationship with this film. Not necessarily this film, but the remake. I remember as a kid when the remake was coming out, because I want to say that was 2007, 2008, right?
6, I think, yeah.
Yeah, we were pretty young at that time. I remember being terrified of the existence of The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
So, in my head, I had this idea that this film would be way scarier. And it really wasn't. So that kind of also made me go, it kind of lacked that. It didn't seem like it did much to bring the genre forward, the subgenre forward, I should say. And then it also didn't necessarily do anything to scare me, so it didn't have that going for it, So it just, overall, it's just a no for me.
Well, there you go. So 2 no's and a yes. So that makes it a no.
Non-essential.
Yeah,
I know. But I do want to stand on that point of I think that there is an essential movie somewhere in The Hills Have Eyes, in the series. I don't know which one it is yet.
So it's the remake then, huh?
I don't know which one it is yet.
Well,
all right, coming next week, the movies that are essential and franchises that we've said are unessential.
Okay, that would be interesting.
That honestly actually is a pretty solid idea. It would kind of give away one whole aspect of our show, but
that's okay.
I don't know, it could be fun.
I know. Well, hey, speaking of essential franchises, what have you guys been up to lately?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
So there's this indie game called Dark Souls 3. That's all I've been playing this whole week. I'm still on that platinum grind. I just can't play anything that's not a Souls-like, given the fact that Elden Ring comes out in 5 days. I'm not counting down. What are you talking about? So that's really been just about it for me. It's also, we're recording on Sunday morning as a little bit of a background here, and it's 55 degrees where I live today. So I'm going to go actually play real disc golf for the first time in a month at this point, because it's been very cold.
As opposed to putt-putt disc golf, right?
As opposed to the putting league, which is fine, great. I need the practice. Great. But man, I want to play for real. So I'm going to be doing that almost directly after we finish recording this cast.
Love that.
So that's been me.
There you go. Hey, you can find me at Corbangering. You can find Alan at a seal punter.
It's up there. You could have tweeted at me. What are you doing?
I have been building a lot of Warhammer. It was pretty warm in the last week. There was 1 day. And so I was able to prime 30 models, so I'm ready to have a nice painting streak coming up. I did unfortunately lose my hobby streak over Valentine's Day weekend. I was up to 63 days. I restarted. I'm on day 4 now. When you fall, you get back up, right? Batman. And so I'm doing that.
Stupid.
That's most of my free time. I've been playing Lost Ark, which is pretty good. And Destiny. I've been preparing. Witch Queen comes out on Tuesday, so the day after this episode airs. Super, super excited. Just getting all my guys ready for that. Bobby's wedding is coming up at the exact same time, so we're losing a little bit of Witch Queen time, which is kind of a bummer, but it's a marriage, so
I guess we'll forgive him this time.
What the fuck?
Anyway,
what is that about?
Yeah. Hey, Bobby, what have you been doing?
Ha 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 ha! I'm getting married in day of recording 6 days. Yeah. Day of release 5 days. Yep. So a lot. I've been doing a lot of a wedding prep. As you guys can see, the last couple weeks, you guys might have noticed a lot of greenery on the floor of my basement is now emptied as on recording day. You might even hear it in the background sometimes. My soon-to-be mother-in-law and my soon-to-be wife are packing while I record, and I will be going up to join them as soon as I'm done with all the editing and stuff, because this week's got a really quick turnaround. Yeah. Impossibly fast turnaround.
Less than 24 hour.
Yeah, we got it.
We're pretty good now.
Other than that, which has taken up the 90% of my free time, the other 10% I have been putting into Lost Ark, because I've got about like 2-3 days before I have to switch entirely over to Witch Queen. And I plan on doing that in whatever free time I have, but won't be a lot because of said wedding that I am going to be hosting and being a part of, being the groom in. But yeah, so a lot of nerves, a lot of excitement. Twitch.tv/TheRedWeenie starting the week after. You'll probably see me on Twitch quite a bit because I'll have a lot of free time. I took that week off of my day job, and I want to get back into streaming anyway. So sure. I'll be streaming Destiny,
March basically, almost starting in March. Yeah,
starting in March, pretty regularly.
Nice. It's gonna be cool. Definitely. Hit up Bobby's Twitch if you want to see some more Bobby, and even if you want to hear more of us. A lot of times when Bobby plays, we're playing with him, and it's kind of like a little reunion every time.
That's true. We're actually friends.
That's right. You can find the podcast anywhere at Essential Scares. We're active on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on Twitch up soon under Bobby's URL. Hit us up, join the Discord, let's chat sometimes. We love to talk about movies, music, games. Next week, we're doing a little bit of a detour. We were going to be watching the new Texas Chain Saw Massacre, but with the aforementioned Bobby wedding coming up, we have decided to take a week off, and we'll be running one of our old episodes from the archive from before we were Essential Scares, and we will have an episode on Raw coming out next week. This is a super cool movie that everybody loves.
Everybody loves.
It's hard to imagine not loving it, right?
You'd have to have a weird cognitive dissonance thing.
It's and almost maybe like we're gonna see an origin story next week.
There's definitely an origin story. So check in next week for Raw. As an additional piece of behind the scenes info for all of you, we are going to be shifting the podcast date back to Wednesdays every week instead of Mondays. So starting with the episode on Raw, you will expect to see us Wednesday mornings from now on. This is just to help facilitate behind the scenes stuff as we get busier and busier with our normal lives.
And the podcast.
Yeah, for real. But the Texas Chain Saw Massacre episode is coming the week after that, so don't worry, it's still happening. Thank you to Alan and Bobby for being on the show. Thank you to all of you for listening and watching. You've been great. I've been your host, Corbin, and this has been Essential Scares.
The breakdown has eyes, baby. That's all I had. I don't know. I was